After leaving Celaena, Chaol goes to see his father and makes a deal with him. Basically, he wants his father to support the notion to send Celaena, the king's champion, over to Wendlyn to basically learn about their plans and army and naval defenses so they can, better take over, kind of thing. In return, Chaol will go back with his father to Aniel, his home, and leave his position as captain of the guard and go back to his position as being heir to the lordship. Now, Chaol does all of this because he wants to protect Celaena and get her out of Adarlan, which will basically, if the king finds out that she's Fae, it won't be good. And so if she's in Wendlyn, it's like the last safe place for Fae. And so he's like, okay, she'll be safe there. That's good thinking. Celaena then tells Dorian what she told Chaol, but like with a little less. And she does tell him about Mort, and someday she'll take him down there to like meet him and tell him all about what's, the catacombs and everything like that. And Dorian then reiterates that he will always be grateful for her. And it's like so sweet. I honestly think this, like, their friendship is so good because they're so alike. They're a great balance. So it's really good for them to be able to come back to this friendship. Now we learn in a chapter that is from the king's kind of third person perspective, we learn that he knew of a portal opening. He felt it, and then he felt it closing. We also found out that he invited Baba Yellowlegs, so he invited a witch to Rifthold so he could purchase her mirrors in order to find the missing Iron Teeth Alliance. Now the mirrors, we kind of get like a little bit of description of like they have a magical power to be able to see certain things, like just either see the heart's desire, see future, see past, whatever it is. Like they have a magical essence to them. And so with the Iron Teeth Alliance, we know that is the 3 clans of witches that have come together against the Crocians. Now we learn that Celaena presented the king with Archer's head and she did her job. So now she summoned him to get her next task, which the king sends her off to leave for Wendlyn the following day. And in his head, he sees that this is a perfect time to test some of their weapons while his champion is slowly taking down the Wendlyn court. Now, what are some of his weapons? We don't know, but we will find out in the next, chronological book. Because in the next one, spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about the Assassin's Blade, which takes place in the past. So, after leaving the king, Celaena goes down to the tomb, and she speaks with Elena, which she hasn't really spoken to her a lot in this book. Celaena's like, I can't go. Okay, there's stuff I need to do here. Why am I being sent to Wendlyn? She knows that if she were to go to Wendlyn, she wouldn't continue with Elena's plan. But Elena assures her that Chaol was only protecting her the way that he knew how, and that she'll be near Dornell. She'll be near Dornell, which we'll get more information on that soon. Dorn is upset that Chaol even suggested that Celaena go to Wendlyn. And Chaol understands. He's like, I understand. I knew all the possibilities of what were going to happen, all that stuff. But he knows he needs to do what needs to be done. And Chaol kind of makes a snide remark to Dorian saying, one of us has to start leading. And that's kind of like a gut punch to Dorian, because Dorian's like, okay, why did you say that? Jeez, it's kind of a bitchy thing to say, Chaol. The morning before Celaena leaves for Wendlyn, she visits Nehemia's grave and kind of says her goodbyes and all this stuff, and she promises at Nehemia's grave that she will stop the king. And with a blood oath that she makes with her palm, with the blood from her palm, she promises that on her name and on her life, she will see Elwë free. Celaena says her goodbyes to Dorian because he won't be able to say goodbye to her at the dock, so they're saying goodbye now, and she asks if he'll keep Fleetfoot safe while she's gone. He's like, yeah, of course, I'll keep her safe, it's gonna be okay. She promises that she'll come back to him, and even though he senses there's more in her words, he believes that she'll be back. Like, there's a concrete promise in there. Chaol goes down to the docks to say goodbye to Celaena and to make sure that she knew what he was doing, like why he suggested she go to Wendlyn. And she then takes this time, very short time by the way, like 5 minutes, to tell him everything. The word keys, the word gates, Baba Yellowlegs, the papers in the tomb she hid, the riddle, and she told him that the king has at least one word key, and she told him about the dead creature under the library to never open the door, and she told him about Roland and Catelyn. She told him about Roland and Caltaine, and she then gives him the Eye of Elena and tells him to never take it off, that it'll protect him. She just wants him to know that about everything in case something were to happen, because if she were to be taken captive in Wendlyn and something were to happen in Adarlan, he could go down and he could take care of things, whatever. He could at least be a fixture of hope in Adarlan while she's gone. She then whispers something to him. We don't know what she says, and he doesn't know what it means either, but she says that when he figures it out, it wouldn't matter and that she would still choose him. So just as she goes up on the ship, he tells her he loves her, and all she says is, "I'm sorry," and Chaol watches as she sails away. Now apparently, she told Chaol a date, just a month and a day, and it was the day that she left the city, and it was also the day that she snapped into Endovir, and the day her parents died. So he went back to her room and began to sort through her desk, and he went through her books, going through like a catalog of roll chronicles, and he came to a roll chronicle that was that date, but 10 years ago, and he sees the article announcing the death of the king of Terrazin. His nephew and his nephew's wife were all found assassinated, and there was no word about the fate of the nephews, the heir, about his daughter, Aelin. Now the king of Terrazin, Orlon, his nephew Ro, and Ro's wife, Evelyn came from Windolin, okay? Her maiden name was Ashriver. Now Chaol took out a genealogy book that traced the genealogies of the royal houses of Terrazin and Adarlan. He saw that Evelyn's grandmother was Mab, which is Aelin's great-grandmother. She was one of the Fae's sister queens, Maeve, Mab, and Mora. Now Chaol remembered that during Yulmis, when Selena was given the arrow of Mab, who is Deanna as the goddess, her goddess name, she looked uncomfortable, and then remembered that Selena said her great-grandmother was Fae. He then looks back at the chronicle and he sees an article that says Aelin died. He then looks back at a chronicle and sees an article that says her body was nowhere to be found but was probably dumped in the river by their home and that she's dead. And that's when he remembers that Selena told him that Arabin, her former master at the Assassin's Guild, had found her half dead and frozen by a riverbank. Now, he wasn't sure to believe, and he was all like doubting this until he saw a poem that was scribbled at the top of the Ashriver family tree, which I will read to you. And it says, "Ashriver eyes, the fairest eyes from legends old, of brightest blue ringed with gold." And I'm going to continue on. Bright blue eyes ringed with gold. A strangled cry came out of him. How many times had he looked into those eyes? How many times had he seen her avert her gaze? That one bit of proof she couldn't hide from the king. Selena Sardothian wasn't in league with Alan Ashriver Galanthinius. Selena Sardothian was Aelin Ashriver Galanthinius, heir to the throne and rightful queen of Terrazin. Selena was Aelin Galanthinius, the greatest living threat to Adarlan, the one person who could raise an army capable of standing against the king. Now, she was also the only person who knew the secret source of the king's power and who sought a way to destroy it, and he had just sent her in the arms of her strongest potential allies to the homeland of her mother, the kingdom of her cousin, and the domain of her aunt, Queen Maeve of the Fae. Selena was the lost queen of Terrazin. Chaol sank to his knees. And that's where it's left at.